Ooh, what's up? So I don't really take this YouTube channel very seriously. I kind of just do these voice memos when I'm on patrol at my security guard job, when I can just chill in a corner and talk some shit. This video is something I've been thinking about for a while now, and it's about a new philosophy that I believe is likely going to be the most effective philosophy in the next 20 years. Everyone's talking about black pill or stoicism or red pill or I don't even know what the fuck they're talking about half the time, honestly. Essentialism. All this shit doesn't matter to me. I think the one philosophy for most guys, I say most men, and most men, especially in America. Although America's always like front running, and then the rest of the West kind of follows. But so maybe this will apply to Europe in like 5 years. But pragmatic Doomerism, okay? This is the philosophy of the future. I think that there's all these quotes in the world, such as, men lead lives of quiet desperation. Don't you see the philosophical basis of that statement? Men lead lives of quiet desperation. If that is true, why not accept the desperation in your first second of life? Why not accept the misery in your first second of life and then do something with it? This is essentially the main idea of pragmatic doomerism, is you're a doomer. You kind of see that the world's going to shit. You kind of see that everything you've been taught about relationships, everything you've been taught about money and careers, it's all not mattering. It's all not panning out. And so what you need to do is you need to become a doomer. And becoming a real doomer is not easy. You need to look at everything with an equal lens and truly start to see that the world is really, really fucked up. From here, you actually have the ability to start making some ground, to start getting some leverage in the world. This is where the pragmatism comes into play, is you need to look at these fucked up systems. And you need to, instead of viewing them through a way of like, oh, these fucked up systems are hurting me, or this relationship I'm in is hurting me, you need to completely turn that on its head. You need to instead say, what is the most effective way in which I can use this relationship? What is the most effective way in which I can use this economic system to make more money? What is the most effective way in which I can lower my expenses? And I think that this is probably the philosophy of the future. Because I've seen too much, especially in real life. No one's talking to each other. It just doesn't make any fucking sense what's happening out there. And so I kind of, at least initially, maybe this is where you guys are at watching this video, I was at this point initially where I was just a doomer, you know? I had a YouTube channel, and I realized that everyone on YouTube is a complete fraud and a complete fake, and they just pander to an audience. And I was even making some decent money. And then I kind of followed my heart by making these weird startups that made no money, and they were like education-oriented. To be fair, I'm still working on them. But I was missing the pragmatic part of it. I was just a doomer. I realized slowly, working on my entrepreneurial pursuits, that the world I was given is a complete lie, you know? And as you get older, you start to get a more even view of your own life. You start to realize, like, oh, some of our families are just really fucked up. Some of us exist and have grown next to a relationship with, you know, like our mother and like our father and stuff like that. That's just bad. That's just negative. That's just not good. And then some people take this doomerism. This is the normies. This is ready for a take. Some people take the doomerism of what they're facing in the world, and then they're convinced by a pharmaceutical company that they need to take drugs to counteract the doomerism. I will say this. Maybe the drugs can be pragmatic, but I can guarantee you if people were to just instead accept the doomed state of the world, I think if given a long enough time horizon, maybe 3 or 5 years of genuine acceptance of the world, they wouldn't need the drugs as much. It's instead this pushing back against the world that makes it so people aren't a full doomer. They're like a half doomer. It's almost like seeing an image that is incredibly horrific and terrifying, and then seeing just a little bit of it, and then turning away and being like, what the fuck, I don't want to see that. And then you're just like, oh, the image is bad, I only saw a small part of it, it's really bad. And I know this kind of sounds probably crazy, but then it's like you're constantly looking away and you never really saw the entire thing. Whereas a real doomer looks at the image that is terrible and horrific, that is their modern life they live, and they look at it in its full entirety and they do everything to accept it. Every single corner, pixel of this image that is fucked up, they look at it and they give it a straight view, you know what I'm saying? And eventually they realize that this is just the image. This is just the life. They don't do this normie escapism bullshit anymore, you know? And the more I live, the more I realize how effective this philosophy is. Because whenever you're talking to a woman, let's say, I'll talk about women a little bit here, you just know they're going to cheat. You just know they're going to be like shit. And it's almost like Machiavellian, this kind of mindset where you still can pretend to be like a good boyfriend. You know, you still can maybe mask into different ways that get you what you want. Maybe Machiavellian is more effective way to say pragmatic, you know? But you don't got to be like a psychopath about it or a socio. I guess it's more kind of sociopathic, but it's just effective. It's just the world we live in, you know? If anything, I'll make a note on Machiavellianism. I think the high Mach, low Mach like test in psychology is like 20 questions. And something like that. How, if you ask a question of like, would you be likely to fuck over your coworker? I can guarantee you that just societally, across a broad spectrum of people, that answer to that question would change, you know? Would you fuck over your coworker if it means you kept your job? I think if we live in a society where it's easy to get jobs, a lot of people would say no. But if you live in a society where it's really, really difficult to get jobs, everyone would say yes. And so if that's a question that indicates if someone's Machiavellian or not, it's almost like the society is molding the people more than the people are molding themselves. Oh, I don't want to go too much on the game here, but this is real shit. And so I guess I'm mentioning that example to show you that going towards this pragmatic mindset, it has nothing to do with morality. It has everything to do with what is effective for survival within the society. And I think so many people take these things so personally, when in reality you have to realize that there's a massive difference between who you are on the inside and your own self-acceptance versus how you interface with the external world. And I think the people who are massively effective and massively pragmatic are the people who realize that their internal world and their internal state has nothing to do with the external state. It's kind of a hot take because people are like, oh, once you see it within, it's going to be in the outside world. It's just not true. It's just not true. And so it's this acceptance of yourself and saying that, you know what, I might die tomorrow. And I'm not going to be a pussy about it, you know? I'm just going to play my cards in an effective way. And I'm just going to keep on playing my cards in an effective way. And whenever my game is ended on this life, then it is what it is. And it's kind of funny. I know about this because I actually had like a near-death experience, and it was very eye-opening. I was pretty much on the ground. I was dehydrated and exhausted. I was working on a cruise ship, 15-hour days, and I was just fucked up. And I got to the point where they said if they didn't get like a liquid into my body within 2 or 3 hours, I would have been dead. And like my hands started seizing up and everything. And it's probably one of the best things that ever happened to me because it made me realize that my philosophy wasn't bullshit. I was sitting there, you know, I was sitting there on the ground, like 4 nurses around me. I'm getting an IV shoved into me in urgent care and they're getting me into an ambulance, right? And I was sitting there on the ground and I realized that, you know what? If this life ends, this life ends. And I think that some people just have different reactions towards life, and I realized this. And I always was so curious. I was sitting there and I was still conscious on the ground, but I wasn't really able to move or anything. And it was just so eye-opening because it made me realize how stupid all this shit is. And how all this shit about life and time and, you know, oh, you need to be moral or you need to think about something in 20 years. It just doesn't make any sense. Sometimes things will happen to you in life that determine you. I hate this idea of determining the world around you in the long-term sense. But in the short-term sense, in the decision that you're about to make, you might as well be pragmatic and you might as well fully accept the world. And I honestly believe that full acceptance of the world we live in just leads someone towards the path of being a doomer. I think that most optimism is fake. And if you are optimistic, it should be optimistic with your actions and not optimistic with your worldview. Very important difference. If anything, the worldview is the thing that comes from the internal, looking outside. But your actions are full external. I don't agree with this fucking stoicism, like your thoughts become your habits become your actions. Like, I'm sure there's an amount of truth to it, but also the world you see impacts your thoughts. That's a very missing part of that Stoic kind of philosophy. I think it was like Plato who said that. Am I wrong? I don't even know. And it's like you have to see this world through a very pragmatic lens. And I just make this video to discuss this philosophy because it's something I'm kind of developing where I'm interested in getting into better careers in the future. I'm interested in bettering myself. And I never really had this stance because I always had an optimistic view of the world. I dropped out of school working on computer sciencey stuff. I was even like winning hackathons. I even had a computer science YouTube channel. And I thought that the world would be more receptive towards my unique background. And I quickly learned that no one gives a shit. And it made me a complete doomer because I have the skills. And I'll probably do much better than many of these so-called engineers who walk this earth, right? But the truth is, they just have the backgrounds. They just have the experience. They just look better on paper. And so to hire a guy like me, it's not pragmatic for them. And so that's when I got really based. I was like, this all makes sense. I'm the only person in this world who knows that I'm not a risk. And so what do? I say, fuck you. I go work hard. And I go, whatever the opportunities are given to me, I will go destroy those opportunities. I will go be very diligent with my money. I'll be very pragmatic. Whenever I talk to a woman, in the back of my head, I'm like, I already know that you're nonsense. I already know that you're wrong. I already know that whatever way you view the world, it hasn't resulted in a positive society. So I inherently disagree with it. And that's how I view the world nowadays, is I'm just very kind of pragmatic and rational, much more rational than when I was a kid or when I was younger, you know? And I think it's just being around the world and being around the society just forms people into this. And so if anything, I don't even take credit for this video or the ideas in it. Not even like the ideas are so good that someone needs to take credit for them, but I'm just saying that these ideas are generated by the society. Almost like a very Jungian collective conscious way. Where I think more people are almost unconsciously heading towards this, very God is dead. That's Nietzsche, but very God is dead, very no morality. And it's almost like they're unconscious about it. If anything, women are exhibit A for God is dead. They don't give a shit. And so I don't understand why anyone would be part of a philosophy that gives a shit about them. And it's not that the world's about women, it's just this women are a good example of how the world works, And so every single day I get more and more pragmatic in my actions and I get less and less moral. But throughout my actions, I constantly still have this worldview of whenever I talk to someone, whenever I sell someone something, whenever I see something in the world, I already know they're up to no good. And so I might as well join them. I'm not interested in becoming a martyr in this life. I'm not interested in becoming a slave. And so you might as well be pragmatic while maintaining an incredibly negative, doomeristic, mindset of the world. If anything, and maybe it's a coping mechanism to make it easier to fuck over other people morally. But at this point in my life, with what society has given me, I don't give a shit. I've been given a broken family. I've been given debts. I've been given a college life that was never for me. I've been given opportunities that were always weird and strange and white collar and things that myself didn't align with. So you know what? I'd rather just go the pragmatic path. And I'd rather just go follow myself. And maybe an easier way to interface with the world is to just make a pragmatic side of yourself. And to stop being so positive about other people. And to realize that other people are just as fucked up as you are. And that fucked up side of you that's making all these things, that's saying, I need to make a mask, I need to do this, that's exactly what they're doing. And I think everyone really is one. I think it's something about this Doomerism philosophy. We're all one, and we're all one of this fucked up world. So you might as well accept its fucked upness and make the best next decision. That's all I got to say, guys. Peace.